أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. It's indeed an honor for me to be here, and I ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide me in my speech and grant that the words that are explained of this beautiful deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of His beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam emanate through each and every one of our hearts, inshaAllah. I thank Brother Ismail who had requested of me to be here tonight, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that this institution here as it is, this masjid, grow from strength to strength, inshaAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant khair and barakah to its congregation, inshaAllah. As I was on my duties today, had a few things to do, janazas and weddings and so forth, and I was actually wondering, what does one speak about? Seeing that it is the time of Hajj, most probably everyone would speak about Hajj. But I'm not someone who's for convention much, unfortunately. So I was thinking, we would be hearing so much about the Hajj as the days count down to the day of Arafah and to Eid al-Adha. So the Hajj would be a little monotonous to speak about. So inshallah, as I was driving, I was thinking about something that had occurred to me, that actually had happened to me today, during the course of the day. No. Something that happened to me during the course of today, and that I had an argument, or rather a disagreement with one of my friends. This actually caused a little heartache for me, and I thought, this is something significant in today's age, and the ayah that is very common amongst our people, especially here in Cape Town, that speaks about friendship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون لهم البشرى في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. Says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, behold, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares to those who are reading the Quran, behold, verily the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, upon them will be no fear and no anxiety. الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. They are those who believe and they have built up taqwa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about a specific kind of friendship here. We might have many friends, and those of us who are younger, no disrespect to the older generation. Those of us who are younger, we know that with all social media, you have Twitter, you have the Snapchat, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, all of these kinds of things. You have your BBM, you have your WhatsApp, all of these social medias, and you have different followers, you have friends and so forth. So you might have, for instance, on Facebook, you might have 200 friends. Or on Twitter you might have 300 followers. It's great. But how many times is there that we have a true friend? How many times is there someone whom we can call upon and we can speak to, no matter day or night, whom we can call upon in any situation, be it in a happy situation or in dire straits, especially in dire straits? Do we have that kind of relationship with some individual wherein that individual, he looks up to me and I look up to him, there's this mutual respect between us? In other words, if I should put it in our terms, he's my brah. He's my brah. He have my back when I need him. We catch on nonsense together, and when we get in trouble, we're in trouble together. Many of us have had these relationships with people. Those of us who are older, when we were younger, we had these relationships with friends. We had this relationship with some individual at some point in our lives. And somehow or other, this relationship faded and dwindled, and somehow or other we don't have this relationship anymore. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His divine wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us what kind of a friend we should look out for. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about His friends, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that for those who are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself had chosen as friends, they will be of those who firstly, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ, and they have built up taqwa, they have built up piety and consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this part is very significant in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ, having taqwa is being totally conscious or being constantly reminded of something. I can have taqwa of my house in that I'm constantly worrying, I'm constantly concerned about my house, its value, is it safe, of its contents, all of these kinds of things. That is my taqwa then. Having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means to be conscious and constantly in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So have we had that connection with someone? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he advised us that we should be very significant, be very selective in whom we choose as our friends, in that we will be regarded and we will be judged by the company that we keep. Our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also advises us to be very conscious and be very careful of whom we choose as our friends, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that on the day of Qiyamah a man will be resurrected with the friends that he keeps. So it stands to reason that if we're going to be with people, we're going to surround ourselves with people who are pious, with people who are Allah conscious, people of dhikr, people of Ahlul Quran, people of the Quran, it's going to rub off on us. And if we are always going to be in the company of those who badmouth, who use profound language, who swear, and who are obscene, 9 times out of 10 we're going to follow the same thing, because these are our friends. Therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us also in the Quran that the mu'minun, those who believe, awliya'u ba'dukum ba'd. Says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who believe, who are true in iman, they are friends of one another, or they should be friends of one another. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just leave it up to us to think that, it's okay to have any other friends besides those who have iman. No, further Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we should not take the Yahud and the Nasara, or those who will lead us astray, as friends. For the simple reason that any friendship in this dunya and in the akhirah would be of a regret if it is not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us also the end of Abasa in the 30th juz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَعَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, we have parents whom we love to bits. We all love our parents. Although sometimes, as youngsters, there's times when our parents work on our nerves. And there's times when even for the older generation, they don't want to admit it, but their parents work on their nerves as well. However, we love our parents, we love our children, we love our spouses. These are our closest connections. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, on the day of judgment, on the day of Qiyamah, because of the horrors of that day, يَوْمَ يَفِرُ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ. That day, a man will run away from his brother, he will run away from his father, he will run away from his mother. وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. He will even run away from his wife and from his children. He will have nothing to do with him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a glimmer of hope. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that those who are friends of one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, drawing one another closer, ever closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those will be the people whom we will embrace on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us such friends, inshaAllah. We have to be very cognizant and think about it. Who I have as a friend here in this world. As a youngster, you might think nothing about it. I have a friend on school, or at school rather, if my grammar serves me correctly. I have a friend We see each other every day, and because we see each other every day, he constitutes my friend. And once I leave primary school or high school or varsity, college, whatever the case may be, we don't see each other anymore. So we maybe keep contact for about a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then we lose contact. So what kind of friend is this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how are they friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what benefits do they get? Because they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they are constantly connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of judgment, when everyone will be in such dire straits that they are running away from one another, thinking about themselves and thinking about the hardships that they find themselves in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, that boy, that's my bra. He was constantly in connection with me. I know him. I got your back today. Today you will be la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. There will be no fear on you. There will be no anxiety upon you. Can we say in this dunya that we have a friend like this? My ustad, he once asked a question. He asked us, are you all going to die? I answered yes. And he asked us, do you have friends? And we answered yes. And then he asked us, so who of your friends is going to come to you to the qabr? And we thought that Sheikh meant that who's going to come with the janazah. We said, hopefully everyone, Sheikh. The Sheikh said, that's not what I'm asking. Who's going to be with you in the qabr? Sheikh asked. If he's truly your friend, he should be able to say, well, I'm going to at least spend one night with you in this qabr, so that you're not alone. I mean, it's going to be dark in that hole now. You're going to want some company. So Sheikh asked us, who's going to be your true friend to go with you in that hole? We were stunned. What friend or what person in their right mind is going to go with his friend, no matter how close they are? Who's going to go with you in the qabr and stay there for a few hours? And Munkar and Nakir is going to come there and say, you know what, I'm just here for moral support with my friend here. No one's going to do that. Therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam encourages us. Be very selective of who your friends are. We find people in this world who bring out the evil side of us, bring out evilness in us, who bring out darkness in us, bring out these attitudes and these actions which are not of benefit to anyone, least of all to ourselves. And then we get those friends or those people whom we accept as acquaintances initially, who bring out the good in us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us, take those people as friends. Because those who bring out the good in you, says in Ibn Ata'illah was an Egyptian scholar, he says that the one, if you take the blacksmith for a friend, you will always smell like smoke. If you're going to, those of us who still remember what a blacksmith is, blacksmith used to be the man who used to work with fire and making horseshoes out of iron. So if you're going to constantly be working with fire, you're going to constantly smell it like smoke. So Ibn Ata'illah, he says, if you're going to mix with a blacksmith, you're going to smell like smoke. And if you mix with a perfume maker, just a perfume maker, not you're going to go swim in the perfume itself, but you're just going to be with the one who makes the perfume, you're going to smell like perfume. So which one would we prefer? Ibn Ata'illah leaves us with this question, which one would we prefer? The friend who smells like smoke, and because we come from him, who's been working with the smoke every day, we smell like smoke, we become detestable, we become someone who is rejected. We don't want to associate with someone who smells like smoke every day. No offense to the smokers, no? And those who smell like perfume again, if you're always with someone who smells like perfume, no, you want to be with him because maybe I can get some of that after that rubs off on me, then I smell good again. Friendship is very selective in Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to be very selective of who he took with on travel. He used to be very selective of who he took with of his companions when it was time to speak diplomatic matters, when it was time to speak to delegations. Rasulullah ﷺ didn't just take any of his companions. The most significant journey or the most significant event in the life of Rasulullah ﷺ, which was the Mi'raj, not the Mi'raj, the Hijrah from Makkah to Medina, Rasulullah ﷺ didn't just take any of the Sahaba. He could have taken Sayyidina Umar. Sayyidina Umar was very strong, and the rest of Makkah feared Sayyidina Umar. Sayyidina Umar, as it is told in the history, Sayyidina Umar was the only one who made his hijrah in public. Sayyidina Umar went first to the Kaaba, he made 2 rak'at sunnah, and then he stood up and said to the Ahlul Makkah, the people of Makkah, that if you want to have your wives and your mothers cry over you, then you follow me as I take my hijrah to Medina. He went publicly, fearless, Sayyidina Umar. Rasulullah ﷺ could have taken him. Rasulullah ﷺ could have taken Sayyidina Uthman, very rich man. He could have taken his cousin, Sayyidina Ali, who was like a brother to Rasulullah ﷺ. Could have taken anyone with him on this journey of hijrah. Treacherous journey, dangerous journey, but also a journey that Rasulullah ﷺ longed to take. Who did he choose to take with him on this journey? He chose Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Sayyidina Abu Bakr was this bosom friend of Rasulullah ﷺ, whom he knew he could trust Abu Bakr with his life. This is the kind of friends that we should have. A friend that I know I can count on you whenever I'm in desperation, or I have great news, I have joyous news, I can share it with you, and I know you will be happy for me as I will be happy for you. You will share in my pain when I have pain, and I will share in your pain when you have pain. This is the kind of friendship we should look for. Characteristics we should look for in friends. Don't matter if we have so many followers on Facebook or on Twitter. Where is that one friend whom I can tell my deepest, darkest secrets to? And he will not judge me. He will be there for me. What kind of friend will see you go into the fire and laugh at you while you're burning? Is that a friend? Or will see you go into the fire and not just tell you don't go there, but take you by your hand and lead you away from it? Which friend is better? Jamaatul Muslimin, and wrap up inshaAllah. Each and every one of us has friends in our lives. We have acquaintances, we have people we know. And we have to ask ourselves, of what value is this person in my life? I'm not saying to any degree cut certain people out of your life. That is for each and every one of himself. If a person would be of value to me, then keep him in our life. And if anyone would be to our detriment, he is of no benefit to me. Not in the spiritual sense, not in a financial sense, not in a physical sense. He is absolutely of no benefit to me whatsoever. Is it necessary to keep such a friend? Unfortunately, I have just come from this situation now where I had an argument with someone who was a very, very good friend of mine. And I hope, inshaAllah, I hope to repair this relationship that I have, inshaAllah. Pray for me as I will pray for you, inshaAllah. Let us take stock of who we keep as our friends. We have soccer buddies, we have cricket friends, cycling friends, friends that we've gotten to know through the masjid, through adkar, all of these kinds of things. Jamaatul Muslimin, let us reflect. Who do we really want as friends in our lives? For inshaAllah, we want that friend who, if I have him as a friend, that my friendship through him should ultimately bring me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make me a better Muslim. A true follower of the sunnah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And ultimately, in all aspects, every kind of friendship should always bring us to one goal, and that is to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakallah khair. Is there anyone have any question that hopefully I can answer, inshaAllah? A non-Muslim as a friend, there is a variety of opinions concerning the ulama with non-Muslims as friends. Friends in acquaintances, no problem. In today's day and age, it would be difficult to say that you don't have someone who is a friend who is non-Muslim. So if you have someone who is a non-Muslim and he is kind of your friend, it's fine. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of awliya ba'dukum ba'da in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking of that close connection with someone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discourages that kind of connection or friendship with a non-Muslim. That could be through your amal, through your actions. Again, you have this person as a friend who is non-Muslim, so therefore we can't just write off non-Muslims as we can't have them as friends at all. It might just be because of your friendship through with this person that he sees the beauty of Islam and then becomes a Muslim. So by all means you are allowed to have such a kind of a person as a friend. No problem. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all our non-Muslim friends that we may have, Allah guide them and bring them into the fold of Islam, inshallah. Anyone else?
I still have counted this, the Eid is coming up, Eid al-Adha, a big issue. Most of us were sitting there probably when they Saturday, Sunday, or vice versa. The ulama that our leaders, today, like people from there, supposed to be our friends also. And it's members, family members, connected, all that. Why are we still having this issue for so long?
The issue has been coming on for many years. However, this is not significant only to Cape Town. I know in Pakistan they have 3 Eids, not only 2 Eids. They have actually 3 different days of Eid. So there is even more ikhtilaf there, more disagreement there than there is here. However, the point of Eid, the discussion on the Eid matter, is something that is left to the fuqaha, to the jurists in Islam. So when they give a ruling, it's not compulsory upon the ummah to follow one set method. If there are various opinions, there are opinions that say you're allowed to follow with Makkah. There are allowed valid verdicts that say you have to keep with the moon. Either one, it's up to the discretion of the individual. If he understands the ruling of either of the parties, then tabbal.
Yeah, because the reason why was Friday Juma last year, and I passed really with the judge since I came back, so that's my year. But this particular section went past on the wrong day, so that's the leader.
Unfortunately, we get this also amongst our leaders. Some who are very dogmatic in saying that, this is my way and you have to follow it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that we also find that. That is again my one ustad, Aji Darwish rahmatullah alayhi, used to say in Afrikaans, your faithfulness is amal iwalang. You will always find differences of opinion amongst people. Unfortunately, the dogmatic approach, that doesn't work in Islam. There's always flexibility.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I just think sometimes we fall to judgmental also.
Okay.
We judge too quickly for the wrong people, and
that is true. We find many a times that jumping to conclusions is a practice that our people have gone to for so long. Unfortunately, if you look at many of the verdicts in the fiqh, they come up with scenarios that might occur. And some of these scenarios never ever occur, but because there is the slight possibility, so we have to give a ruling on it. Possibly it can happen. However, you find many of the later jurists who say, you know what, when something comes up, then rather give a ruling. Don't give something that might happen and you don't even know what is it. This judgmental attitude here in Islam, we have to try to get away with it. Rather have more tolerance with one another than judgmental attitudes with one another. Nothing? Shukran, jazakallah khair.
Is there a man or a woman, can you have a girl as a friend or a boy as a friend?
Good question. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. the question of girls and boys as friends is actually a kind of tricky, in that if we were speaking about girlfriend and boyfriend in the sense that we know it as someone who is courting one another, this relationship in Islam is not allowed. Courting one another, that is not allowed, because a non-mahram, they may not be in khulwa sahiha, as we know it in the fiqh, in enclosures alone together, private enclosures with each other. That is not allowed. So even if it be in a car, driving to somewhere where I'm going to meet friends, me and this boy, haram as the understanding of Islamic jurisprudence puts it. Boyfriends and girlfriends, no. But having someone as a friend, or we have kind of know each other, it's maybe my neighbor, someone who I've gone to school with, and I have this kind of relationship. Yes, I know you, but we have an understanding that there's nothing impermissible, prohibited happening. In other words, I don't touch her, she doesn't touch me, there's no illicit acts happening between us. Everything is above board. Some of the contemporary scholars, the Halaf, they would allow such a relationship. The Salaf, however, the classic scholars, they even say that such a relationship is taboo. You may not have such a relationship. So there is a variety of opinions concerning this. Having a friend, if you are a friend who is non-mahram to you, a female or a male, for those who are female here, of the person of the opposite sex, let me put it as that, who is non-mahram to you, to the halaf they would say it is fine as long as everything is done above board. There's nothing prohibited, no prohibited actions happening between you, it's fine. Sometimes I choose to take that option other than the classical fiqh.